want to, like I normally do, have a special thank you to our fans and our most directly our student body for our support. They've been awesome, and they get challenged. I know maybe we get tired of hearing that. I know I certainly don't want to get tired of saying it. I can speak on behalf of our players that it's a motivating force to come walk in that stadium on a somewhat cold day and still see our fans with us and even stick around after halftime. The champions for the Illinois game are as follows. On defense, excuse me, on defense you got Eli Apple. He's getting better and better each week. He had 4 out of 4 opportunities to make a play. He did. Durant Grant also graded out a champion. He was 5 out of 5 make plays. Didn't have as many opportunities. Josh Perry, Darren Lee, Stevie Miller, and Joey Bosa. And it was awesome to see our players' reaction because of the respect they have for this guy. But the defensive player of the game was Curtis Grant. Played his best game as a Buckeye. On the offensive side of the ball, Evan Spencer, would it be hard for me not to name him as one of our most valuable players at this point, midway through the season, but he was a champion. Dontre Wilson graded out a champion. Great to see him do that. Jeff Hireman, Ezekiel Elliott, Curtis Samuel. Offensive line, you had Taylor Decker, and then we had co-players of the game, Jalen Marshall, who's, because of his work ethic and the way he's approached the game in the past several months, was offense player of the game, and Jacoby Boren was offense player of the game. On kicking, Eric Smith was our special teams player of the game, and once again the coverage units were really good. We sky kicked a little bit because of the wind and because we wanted to try something new. Obviously the first one wasn't very good. The kicker missed it, but we usually go deep left. We had a lot of respect for that kick returner, and then once I saw we were playing defense as well as we were. We didn't want to have something stupid happen, so we pounded the ball out of the end zone with the wind and tried to sky it against the wind. So I'm going to obviously a big week, and I hope the culture is here at Ohio State. That the most prepared team will win, not the most interviews, not the most conversations you have. So the mentality that we want to have is we want to really work hard Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, get ready for the game at 8 o'clock Saturday night. So with that, I'll answer any questions for you.
Urban, what's the status of green things at the facility this week? Is that allowed or not?
Oh, I don't know. We're just working on third downs and all that. We're not in just a big game. Great idea, though. Great idea.
You've coached in many rivalry games at all your stops. You have the rival here. Now you're playing a team that you lost to last year. You're tied for first place. It's a big game. I know you like to talk about motivation, that kind of thing with players. Is there anything different about like a rivalry game where the motivation is that deep-seated every year's rival versus a big game like this?
Well, I think there's a lot of difference. I got asked that last week a little bit. I can't remember who did that, but I just grew up in the 10-year war, and there's been a saying around here: you can lose every game you play except for the team up north. We all know that's not true. However, I'd love to have our players have a very clear understanding of rivalry games, the pageantry of it, and when you come back, to understand the rivalry. We have one rival here. What's happened in this situation is you have an excellent team. After watching them on film, they're a great team, and they stand in the way of the Big Ten championship. They stood in the way last year when we failed, and so does that make them a rival? It makes them, in the way of something that we all want. And that's a Big Ten championship. So I think that it happened a little bit with Wisconsin. I remember our first year, that was a big, they went to 3 straight Rose Bowls. So I think that this is a credit to their university, their coaching staff, and most importantly, their players. And our guys know that. So to say this is a rivalry game, that would diminish the rivalry that's been here for 100 years. This is a great game because it's 2 teams battling for first place.
Urban, aside from the Texas knows and the risks of playing a really good team, is there a part of you that's interested to see what you guys are made of and how far you've come and to test yourself against somebody who's an equal?
Yeah, until we, I heard, I've been asked that question several times, and just about, liking playing a team at the same level as we are, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think we've beaten a bunch of very good teams, but this is, they're the king of the top. They're the king of the hill right now, because they won the championship, and you have to dethrone them. How you do that? You outwork them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. excuse me.
Last year's game.
What was the difference? I think obviously it came down to a couple plays. They jumped out to a quick start. We did not play very good pass defense, gave up a big one that we didn't need to give up, and on offense, we had the ball at the end of the game, we didn't execute to win the game. And I thought offensively, watching it, we played, that was two very good teams playing each other last year. Very physical game, and they made a few more plays than we did. But I thought our pass defense, hurt us last year in that game, and then obviously when the ball in your hand, to go win it, we didn't get it done.
Just curious, how much in general in a week like this do you fall back on that psychology degree? Motivating and...
I think you have to fall back on that when you're playing teams that, there's not a whole lot of, if we weren't very intelligent, you'd have to be real creative. There's not a whole lot of creativity in this one. Everybody knows what's at stake. I think the most important thing is that I have to do, and the leader's job and our coaches, is the immediacy of the task at hand. Today's Monday. What's the most important thing on Monday? For them to get their rest, to get the treatments. We played a game they did not. So we have to equate this a little bit. So we've had conversations. This will be more about just the task at hand. And that's a Monday, then a Tuesday, then a Wednesday, then a Thursday. And I'll try to get as many people want to do interviews in our locker room now and all that. Since now I work for Jerry, I guess we're going to do all that. So I'm just kidding. But I think it's all good, the exposure for our players and coaches, but the immediacy is to get focused. The most prepared team will win this game.
It's such a game of routine. That's so important. Third straight night game. How much has that helped you in terms of the kids?
I think it's probably real. It's not a shocker now. So I think it does help us that we've had some night games to prepare for this one.
Patton Narduzzi obviously has an extra week to come up with something for you guys. How, in practice, can you, as coaches, get JT Barrett ready to face something that he might not see on film?
Well, we've seen it all this year. The one thing about their coach and their coaching staff, they're pretty set in what they do. They're really good at it. And so this is not one of the Star Wars where you change a defense every week, and there's the inherent problems with that. When you face a team that changes, because you're really not quite sure. But we have to be ready for adjustments. They won't change their defense because they're too good. It's the ones that maybe are struggling on defense or come up with something, but they'll have a little wrinkle here and there that we have to be ready for. That's why we're watching what we did against them last year. They'll certainly have some. How do you prepare for it? We anticipate, and you give them that rep in practice. That's the only way to do it.
Talking to your defensive coaches, do they say that they see a lot of difference between Connor Cook last year in that game and now?
You'd have to ask them. I've not had that conversation yet. I will. I've been so knee deep in there right now. I haven't had that chance to talk to them yet about it.
You guys have been so prolific offensively this year. It seems like the one exception might be short yardage situations, and that's going to be probably a big part of this week. Is it offensive line, and just as you analyze the short yardage situations?
Yeah, two things. I think we had a big back last year that kind of ran through some tackles, and I think our backs are pretty good, and they're going to get more physical the older they get. But they're playing pretty good. I think teams have also given us some pretty tough looks to run into, and I think we have tried to do a little throwing in certain situations. So that's certainly an area that we're going to take a look at. And obviously we had one last year we didn't convert on a fourth down. So that's a big part of the game now. The personnel and defenses are so good in those situations that that's something we're going to sink a lot of time into.
Michigan State has, I think, 7 fifth-year starters. You obviously have a very young team. How much of a factor do you think that is?
Well, it's a huge factor. It's last year I felt like we were kind of a veteran team, certainly on the offense with those linemen, and that's certainly not the case this year. So that's a big factor. Once again, it's a factor, but not much you can do about it other than go back to work and do the best you can. So that certainly is a factor.
Something about Devin Smith, obviously 2 years ago he had the huge catch. He's kind of had a different role this year. How has he adapted, and how important is he?
Well, he's doing great. He's the best gunner in America. He's does a great job for us on that. He also is our downfield threat. Does a very good job on that as well. He's adapted well. I'm not sure how much his role has changed, other than the fact we had no one else a couple years ago, and that was the biggest difference. Now we have a variety of different body types and skill sets that we try to utilize. So his role or value hasn't changed. I mean, it's just a couple years ago it was racks to right, racks to left, and throw it to Devin down this field. And it's changed a little bit.
Urban, last week you kind of captured the whole picture when some of your comments about driving toward the student section after they'd run off 24 straight points. I might have thought you were thinking about what the first play is going to be, the second play, any new things to combat the noise. How often does that happen? Just kind of, it's almost like take a fan snapshot of what it was like.
You talking about the Penn State game? Yeah, I think that just I shared that with our players. I shared it with you guys. That was one of those moments I'll never forget. A young football team, a freshman quarterback jogging out after getting punched right square in the mouth for about a quarter and a half, and getting ready to lose a game. Because everything was pointing. We've all seen that. You're about to lose a game in overtime to Penn State at home, and our guys snatched it up and did well. That was the offensive line, the quarterback. So I just. I'm not sure what that has to do with this, but that's a snapshot. Yeah, I never felt like we let that one go. I felt that they scored right at the end of the game against Wisconsin in the overtime. This one, they beat us. We had to come back and snatch a victory from a loss, and to do that with a young group of players, that normally doesn't happen.
You said that the Michigan State game, I think at 12, was a turning point.
It was.
Is this an opportunity here, though, for a different sort of a signature win that you guys maybe to earn some national respect back?
I think so. I think that will be a conversation I have with our players. I think they know that already. That there's been this is a game that to get the respect that Ohio State deserves and has had in the past, you have to go compete and win this game. It's going to be a task, but that's real.
Last year, after the game last year, some of us observed you sitting in the golf cart. What was kind of the immediate thoughts that you were going through your head right after that game?
Just get a team back from a tough loss after, just getting back after a tough loss and go play the BCS bowl game, because you've all seen those horror stories of teams that don't show up for bowl games because they're just devastated, and your job as a leader and the coach is to move on. And I thought we did. We didn't win the game. Our guys came back and played their tails off. So it's part of the game. We're just gonna do the best we can, and we'll certainly do our best this week.
Perfect. When you look back on that game, though, like you said, Michigan State's not going to change a lot defensively because of how solid they are. What gave y'all the most problems last year in that Big 12 championship, Big 10 championship game?
Good players and a good scheme. I mean, it's a rugged. This is a rugged game. We got to be very smart on how we go about our business, preparing the players this week. How much contact they have. This is going to be the one thing about when both the two experiences I've had with Michigan State, 2012 and 13. I mean, it's a sledgehammers. These are. Say what you want about any other teams and any other conferences or whatever. This team can play at any level, any conference, anywhere. And I'd like to think the Ohio State Buckeyes can too. So this is going to be a big-time football game. That we have to be very smart. The whole key, and I don't mean to keep going back to this, but there's only one thing that matters, that when the foot hits the ball at 8 o'clock at night, our guys are mentally, physically ready to rock and roll, because it's going to be a rugged game.
The other thing, when you look at JT, do you feel he feels he has the freedom now to create, sort of like what Braxton had, last year and stuff, meaning is he over that hump of just running the offense, but also being creative in tough situations and making something happen? What's your sense of how he has embraced that?
Well, the one thing that he does as well is even better than Braxton is when something, because that happens quite often, when something is not there, he puts his foot in the ground and gets us to 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. I can count 3 or 4 times that happened Saturday. Those were not designed runs, but sometimes things don't work out the way you envision them. Some blitz, someone flashes, someone misses a block, a screen pass, someone peels, and he puts his foot in the ground, and we're even teaching him to get down, and so you get offensive football, and Jerry showed me again the stat, we're number 1 in the country in average start field position on offense, average start field position on defense. And that's for a variety of reasons. Number 1 reason probably is we don't have penalties on special teams. I don't know if we've had any this year. Go ahead and say that. We get French fried Saturday. The other thing is good coverage units. But the other thing is our quarterback. And the lost yardage plays don't happen